If your farm feels like it's not progressing the way it should, don't worry. After spending dozens of hours immersed in this game and testing the limits of these mechanics, I realized there are some silent traps that almost every new player ends up falling into. Today, we are going to take a look at the 10 biggest mistakes that are holding back your progress in Moonlight Peaks, and how to fix each of them so you can finally build the perfect farm. I'm Mary, and the video is about to start. I know exactly what it's like to arrive at your new Gothic property and want to clear every single piece of trash, stone, and weed in sight. Many of us who are already veterans of this simulation genre have this ingrained habit of spending the first few days in the game just clearing the land to make the farm presentable. However, doing this right out of the gate in Moonlight Peaks is one of the biggest traps you can fall into. Before continuing the video, a quick tip for anyone thinking about Moonlight Peaks. Our partner is Instant Gaming, a store where you can find games for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo at much lower prices than in the official stores. In fact, Moonlight Peaks has a great price over there right now. And the best part? Instant Gaming is not a marketplace, so you buy directly from the store with much more security. If you're going to pick up this game or any other, use my affiliate link that is in the description. You don't pay anything extra and you still directly support the channel. Thanks, and let's get back to the video. By focusing only on the grunt work and ignoring the main story, you are literally sabotaging your own game pacing. The big problem with just cleaning up the farm is that you end up locking yourself out of unlocking mechanics essential to your progress. The game was designed so that your evolution depends on magical learning, and the best tools won't simply appear in your inventory over time. If you don't engage with the story, you'll end up stuck in an exhausting cycle, spending an absurd amount of energy slowly watering plants and wasting precious time during your vampire nights. That's exactly why you need to focus on the main quests in the very first weeks, paying special attention to the character Luna's quest line. There's a specific quest called the Magic of Crops that you cannot ignore under any circumstances. I paid close attention to how the game distributes rewards, and this Luna quest is, without a doubt, the turning point that separates a high-maintenance farm from an optimized one. By completing this Luna quest, you will receive your fixed magic wand and unlock Aquaflux, which is the watering spell. This spell alone completely changes the game, but it also gives you access to true magical crops and important tools, such as the bug net. Trust me, having magic take care of the boring part of the work saves an absurd amount of time, allowing you to go explore the town, brew potions, and meet the locals before the sun rises. This one is a classic mistake made by anyone who starts out excited and wants to see the money go up fast, going around selling absolutely everything that shows up in the inventory. At the beginning of Moonlight Peaks, cash is really tight, so it's natural to think, whatever comes in here, I'm selling. But this mindset exacts a heavy price later on, and you usually only realize it when it's already too late. The problem is that many of the items that look ordinary at first are actually key pieces for progression. Fish, bugs, flowers, and even some stranger materials have important functions that the game doesn't make all that obvious right away. When you sell everything indiscriminately, you end up having to chase down those same items later, only with a lot more difficulty, spending time you could have been using to evolve your farm. A simple rule that completely changed my experience was always keep at least one unit of each new fish and bug. This is essential for the museum, which is an important source of rewards and progress. In addition, flowers are fundamental for systems like beekeeping, and several specific materials will be required in future quests. Not to mention those rare items that seem useless at first, but later turn out to be exactly what you need to advance. If you sell everything on impulse, your mid-game gets stuck because you spend more time fixing past mistakes than actually evolving. So hold back that anxiety to make fast money and start thinking long-term. Moonlight Peaks rewards those who organize and plan far more than those who simply clear out their inventory at any cost. In Moonlight Peaks, not every food actually serves to recover your energy, and the game doesn't make that very clear if you don't pay attention to the icons. I myself took a little while to realize that I was basically wasting resources thinking I was helping myself. The big problem lies in foods with the gray energy icon. They seem useful, especially when you're desperate for stamina in the middle of the night, but in practice, they recover almost nothing. Sometimes it's so little that it doesn't even make up for what you spent to get that item. This turns into a bad cycle. You eat, you don't recover enough energy, and you end up limited in your activities for the day. Meanwhile, foods with a pink or magenta icon are the ones that actually make a difference. Those are the ones that will give you a consistent stamina recovery, allowing you to keep planting, exploring, or gathering resources without having to stop all the time. When you start mentally separating these two types of food, the game's rhythm changes completely in your favor. So instead of going around consuming anything that pops up in your inventory, start filtering what you use better. Many of these gray icon foods work much better as gifts or even as a source of income. It seems like a silly detail, but avoiding this mistake already saves time, money, and frustration, especially in phases where every single energy point makes a difference. You know that feeling of finishing the day in Moonlight Peaks and heading straight to the coffin with your stamina bar still full? I did this several times in the beginning, thinking I was being efficient. Spoiler, I wasn't. The game only saves progress when you actually sleep in the coffin, so every point of energy left over at the end of the night is basically progress thrown away. It seems like a small detail, but in a farming simulator where every action counts, this turns into real delays for your farm. What I learned the hard way is simple. Never end the day with stamina to spare. Before lying down, spend what's left. Clear debris from the land, break rocks, pull up some weeds, or go fishing for a bit. Even if it feels like glorious work, it adds up. A piece of land cleared today is a bed ready tomorrow. One less stone is a clear path. And fish? Always useful, whether to eat or sell. I usually treat the last minutes of the day like a mini quest. I look at the energy bar and ask, what can still be done with this? Sometimes it's just mining a little near home. Other times it's sweeping that corner of the farm I'd been ignoring. The point is not to waste it. Moonlight Peaks rewards those who respect the day's cycle, and sleeping with a full bar is the exact opposite of that. So, the next time the sun is going down and you think about heading straight to the coffin, stop for a second. Spend the rest. Clear, break, fish, mine. Your next day self will thank you, and the farm will grow much faster. It's a simple tip, but it's one of those that separates those who just survive on the farm from those who actually progress on it. There's a mistake that looks like the work of a fussy player, but is actually holding back your farm without you realizing it. Going out and clearing all the grass with a scythe. I did this too, thinking I was leaving everything neat and pretty. Except the game has a hidden detail here that completely changes the way you should handle the land. Not all grass is created equal. There is a specific type called pioneer grass, which is basically the origin point for new trees to grow naturally on your farm. When you clear everything thoughtlessly, you're not just organizing, you're cutting off the game's natural resource cycle. Result? Fewer trees popping up, less wood in the long run, and a much slower progression. Once I understood this, my approach changed totally. Instead of running around taking the scythe to everything, I started clearing strategically. I leave some areas with this grass intact, especially on the edges or in spaces I'm not currently using. It's like planting the future of your farm without spending anything. You simply let the game work for you. So hold back the urge to leave everything perfectly clean all the time. In Moonlight Peaks, a little bit of controlled chaos is essential to grow faster. If you want a constant flow of wood and rare resources without relying solely on manual planting, respect the pioneer grass. It seems like a small detail, but it completely shifts the rhythm of your progress.
There's a classic mistake I used to make in the beginning that even seemed harmless but completely stalled the start of my farm: spending money on decoration too early. I know you really want to make everything look pretty right away, put up fences, ornaments, organize the space, except that gives you zero return at the start. It's basically spending precious resources without accelerating your progress. In the early game, every coin matters a lot more than it seems. If you invest in decoration, you are giving up planting more, harvesting more, and profiting more. Seeds, inventory expansions, and tool upgrades are what actually make your farm grow. It's these investments that create a positive cycle of money coming in faster and faster. One thing that became a key mindset for me was thinking like this: does this give me a return, or does it just look pretty? If it doesn't generate resources, it doesn't make the priority list. When you focus on seeds and upgrades, the game starts to flow. Your productivity increases, you waste less time, carry more items, and the money actually starts showing up. Then, later on, decorating becomes a consequence, not a sacrifice. So hold off on the aesthetics for now. Leave the farm kind of chaotic at first, because the goal isn't to look pretty, it's to be profitable. When your economy is running on its own, then you transform everything however you want. But in the beginning, every coin has to work for you, not just ornament the land.
There's a mistake I see a lot of people making without realizing it. I used to do this way too much myself, leaving processing machines idle. And honestly, that's pretty much the same as throwing money away. If the barrel is empty, it's not helping you at all. It's just taking up space on the farm while it could be turning crops into profit. The point is that the game heavily rewards anyone who builds this habit early. Instead of selling everything raw, you take your produce and put it to work in the processors. A single item can turn into something much more valuable after being fermented or processed. And once you understand this, you start viewing barrels like little employees on your farm, always generating a return while you do other things. I personally think the best path is to set up multiple barrels right at the beginning and never leave them sitting idle for too long. Harvested grapes? Send them straight to wine. Harvested something else that can be processed? Into the queue it goes as well. When you create this automatic flow, your income stops depending solely on raw sales and starts growing much more efficiently. So if you want to speed up your farm, treat every machine as a priority. An idle barrel is a lost opportunity. The sooner you fill your production setup with processors, the faster you create a strong, steady, and low-effort passive income source.
There's a mistake that completely changes the farm's rhythm: forgetting to use the wand spells as soon as they're unlocked. I see this as one of those features that seems secondary at first, but in practice become an essential part of your routine. If you ignore magic, you keep spending stamina on tasks that could already be solved in a much more efficient way. The best example is the watering spell. It uses mana and doesn't spend stamina, so you can take care of huge fields of crops without destroying yourself in the process. This makes a giant difference in day-to-day gameplay, because instead of ending the night too tired to do anything else, you still have energy left to harvest, mine, organize the land, or move on to the next task. I like to think of these spells as a quality of life upgrade that a lot of people underestimate. Once you start using Aquaflux and the harvesting and mining spells, the farm starts functioning in a much lighter way. You gain time, save energy, and stop treating everything as if you have to use brute force the whole time. It's a small change on paper, but a huge one in practice. So as soon as you unlock these spells, get them into your routine. Don't leave it for later, because this is precisely the kind of tool that accelerates your progress without demanding much in return. The more you use magic to ease the heavy lifting, the more your farm grows without wearing you out.
If you're playing Moonlight Peaks like it's a traditional farming simulator, ignoring the Hellkitten form, you are basically sabotaging yourself without realizing it. I know that at first it seems like just an aesthetic detail or something situational, but in practice it completely changes the game's rhythm. This is the kind of mechanic that the game doesn't force on you too much, but once you understand it, everything starts flowing better. The Hellkitten form isn't just faster, it's much more efficient in what really matters: energy. While in normal form, you feel that constant drain when digging and preparing the land, with Hellkitten, you can get a lot more done before needing to stop. And in a game where every day counts, spending less energy means producing more, planting more, and evolving faster. And there's also mobility, which many people underestimate. Moving around faster seems like a simple bonus, but in practice, it cuts down that dead time between tasks. You go from one point of the farm to another much more agilely. You can optimize routes, and you still have time left over to explore or take care of other things. It's that invisible gain that, added up over the course of days, turns into an absurd difference in progress. So if you're feeling like your farm is moving slowly, maybe the problem isn't a lack of resources or planning, but rather ignoring this transformation. Start using Hellkitten as part of your routine, especially during land preparation moments, and you will immediately notice how much more dynamic and rewarding the game becomes. There's a classic mistake that a lot of people make right when they start, and I fell for it myself in the first hours, wanting to clear the entire farm on the first day. You get that feeling of, I'm going to organize everything now and then just grow, but the game simply wasn't made for that at the beginning. The starting tools are quite weak, and your stamina vanishes way too fast. You start out excited, cut down some trees, break some rocks. Before you know it, you're exhausted even before planting properly. And then the problem begins. You spent all your energy clearing land you won't even use at that moment. What actually works is being strategic. Clear only what's necessary to make space for your first crop and some basic paths to move around better. That is already more than enough to start progressing, making money, and most importantly, not wasting stamina on things that won't give you an immediate return. The rest of the farm can wait. When you have better tools and more energy, then yes, it's worth expanding and making everything look pretty. In the beginning, the game rewards those who think long-term, not those who try to do everything all at once.
And a heart turned blue. Got a letter from my baby saying I'm done with you.